Hello, my name is Nathaniel Atto. You can catch up with all the fun and inspiration on the Joy Sports link here on Joy 99.7 FM, together with all other shows over and over again. It's very simple. All you need to do is go to myjoyonline.com/podcast and relive all of those fun moments over and over again. Joy 99.7 FM, your radio for discerning listeners.
Joy 99.7.
Welcome back after the sports. This is still the AM show, and we're missing Israel today. He's not feeling well, so he's not here today. But he'll be back tomorrow, God willing. Israel, if you're watching, you better be back tomorrow, otherwise we will come and find you in your house. Anyways, so we're continuing with the show, and we're going to have a conversation about sports. We're going to talk about our loss to Bafana yesterday, the form of the team, the strategy, the tactics, the number of times the Black Stars have broken our hearts, and why we behave like Arsenal fans when it comes to a national team, hoping against hope that somehow they'll pull out something we haven't seen before and do something that's worthy of the love that we have shown them over the years. We'll be having that conversation. George, Addo, Oreku and Bafo here with me in the studio. So we'll do that. Also, we'd love to hear from you. If you call us or send us your messages on social media, that would be great. How do you feel about the Black Stars now? You know, after all these years, how do you feel about yesterday's game? How do you feel about this tournament? Are you hopeful or have you given up? I'd love to hear what you think about that. So we'll have that conversation. We'll also be visiting the town of Nsawam this morning, and we'll be talking about Chofi and all things Chofi. So good stuff coming from Nsawam. Manuel went into the community to interact with them and see what's going on there. So we'll be doing that as well. And we'll be talking about Guinea, about the coup that happened, about the fact that the constitution was changed so that there could be a third term, and what it means, you know, when we're still having coups in Africa, what it means for democracy, what it means when we're able to change our constitution so that we can hold on to power. And these kinds of things that continue to happen are devastating for the general look of Africa, for investment, for moving forward, for the way that we look to the world, really. So we'll have that conversation with a political scientist and try to understand how these things affect us as a country, as Ghanaians, and what it means for Africa when things like this happen, as well as for the Guineans, apparently, who have been jubilating on the streets about this coup. So mixed feelings there. So we'll have that conversation as well. But we're going straight into our sports conversation this morning. And Oreku with the eyelashes is joining me. How are you?
I'm good. How are
It's
you?
unfortunate your eyelashes are not on show this morning. But it's good to see you.
It's good to see
How are you feeling after yesterday's match?
I think I represent a huge section of Ghanaian fans, and it's fair to say I'm a bit indifferent concerning the Black Stars.
Wow.
A few years ago, I would have been a bit emotional, but it is starting to become the norm where we're not really seeing the team give their best and leave it all up on the field. That's what national team football is supposed to represent. You're supposed to see people willing to die for the badge and for the country. If by any chance they do believe in the national anthem that they do sing before the games, you would expect much better from the players and the pitch, the technical team, and everyone involved. So it's a tough time to be a Ghanaian fan, but I think I do represent a huge majority, judging on the opinions that I've read so far on social media. People just don't care.
Don't care anymore. But you know, when you say that you feel like they're not giving their best, that's hard. That's hard. Because is it that they yesterday, for example, they didn't have the capacity to win the game? Or is it that they themselves just didn't fight hard enough? I didn't watch the game, unfortunately, because I've been indifferent for a long time. Yeah. But is that what it was? Because to come to that conclusion is pretty heavy, that they didn't give their best.
Capacity shouldn't have been a problem. And whenever you're talking about capacity, of course, it has to be relative because you have to take into account who you're facing as well. This was a South African team that has never beaten Ghana for 21 years in competitive football action. And they were scared.
They've never beaten Ghana in 21 years
in competitive games. I mean, they've beaten us in a couple of friendly games 8 years ago. But whenever it comes to actual competitive football, either Ghana wins or draws for the past 21 years. And so the South Africans were not really confident.
They didn't come in confident.
No, they were not. Their fans were pretty scared of this Ghana team because of the recent success that we've had against them. And then number two, their coach Hugo Bruce has already stated when he took charge that he's trying to build a team, and fans have to remain patient. Something that didn't sit well with a lot of South Africans. And so if you look at their team, it's a very young team, and they actually have this Afro kid who was very aggressive in the middle of the park. He's just 20 years old. And so this is relatively a very young, new-look South African team. And it's just Percy Tau, who's maybe a seasoned professional. The rest ply their trade in South Africa, playing in their league as well. So this isn't a team that is so above the Black Stars in terms of quality and experience. If by anything, Ghana's team probably was more experienced than the South African team as well. So it wasn't a case of capacity. I think it's a combination of a lot of things. But from what I saw, if players really do want to die for a badge, you would see something. And I understand that, yeah, there are talks of Sika Akono not putting in his best and all that. But we've seen really, quote-unquote, bad coaches as, put by people on social media and fans and coaches who are not the best. But at the end of the day, you would expect your players, someone like Andre Ayew, who is Ghana's all-time top scorer in the Africa Cup of Nations, is the captain. You would expect some players to also assume a leadership role and make things happen on the pitch, no matter how bad you think your coach is. But we saw no signs of that. And that's why I think that it's a bit unfair to see Akono that everyone is overlooking, the effort of some of these players. Players lose the ball, do not track back. If you watch the goal, Mubarak Wakaso was walking and left his man. Wow. People are just not putting in their best anymore. And that's the hard truth. And it's difficult for fans to give their best when players are not giving their best on the pitch.
But I mean, there was also the argument that yesterday's team wasn't like, our top team. So those are some of the arguments that I've heard. But after you've explained the fact that even Bafana, it's not like this was a team that, like you said, is young. We didn't necessarily need to have our top people on there to beat them, did we? No,
we didn't. We absolutely did not. And even our so-called not top team had Alexander Djiku, who had so many offers from European class, plays in the French Ligue 1. On the left side, Gideon Mensah also plays in the French Ligue 1, was bought by Bordeaux. And then we had Jonathan Mensah. He's a seasoned professional, won MLS Player of the Year for Columbus Crew just last season. And we have Richard Ofori, who keeps for Orlando Pirates as well. Wakaso in the midfield. And, with the likes of Baba Idrisu, Lomote, Andre Ayew, these guys should be enough. Yes, I understand Fatao of Hearts of Oak made his debut. And Yao Yeboah has been in form, playing in the Polish top flight, and has attracted interest from Turkey. And so, on paper, although we're missing some key players like Thomas Partey, Kudus, Jordan Ayew, Daniel Amate, I still think Ghana had enough to be able to at least probe the South African defense. In football, a sport, you can lose a game. But when you lose, what can you rely on? You can always say that, we played well, we created chances, we were just unlucky. And that would probably change in the next game. Okay. But when you see consistent, traits of not really trying to create anything, we saw traces of the Ethiopian game where Ghana really failed to carve open the Ethiopian defense and never really probed any defense that they've met. And that's the pattern that we've been seeing in the past 4 games. And our only goal in the last 4 games is a long-range effort by Wakaso that, the keeper should have saved and it crept under him. So the team is just not creating enough. And, it's a whole host of problems that we're witnessing. It sounds like a whole host of problems, and it sounds like another heartbreak story, if you ask me. I think we have George Addo Jr. joining us as well. He's a Joy Sports editor, the famous George Addo Jr. Okay, so George will be joining us in a second, but let's watch the highlights of yesterday's game, and then we'll continue the conversation.
Tao whips it in, it's a decent delivery. Double-headed out. Two options, a left footer and a right footer, and it is the right footer. First time in, goalkeeper spills the ball. And they can't really do anything with a follow-up. Hard to control. Was it a cross? Was it a shot? Decent cross in, and the ball's loose. Oh my word! Well, I don't think the goalkeeper knew exactly where it was, but luckily for him, neither did the South Africa striker, Magopa. He wants a run up, and he gets one. There's the cut back, well-controlled acrobatic kick just wide of the post. That was hopeful. That was brave. Still with South Africa, golden opportunity, and there's a goal! The breakthrough! The hosts have done it! It was messy, it was scrappy, but who cares? Bafana take the lead, 1-0, with just under 10 minutes to play. Celebration, and 3 points in the bag for South Africa.
We didn't mean to upset you. We didn't mean to remind you of the pain that you're feeling at the fact that we lost that game. But of course, we had to go through the highlights. So I would say that I'm sorry, but you know, it is what it is. Now, Agyemang, he's a football coach and a sports pundit. He's joining Oreko and I to have this conversation. I'd love to hear how he feels about our loss yesterday. Good morning, Nana. Aloha. Are you there? Hello, Nana. Can you unmute, please? To go through the highlights. So
yes,
I would say that I'm sorry, but you know, it is what it is. Now, Agyemang, he's a football coach and a sports pundit. He's joining Oreko and I to have this conversation. Okay. So, can you hear me in real time, Nana?
Can.
Okay, great.
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. So how do you feel about yesterday's game to start with? Can you unmute? Okay, we're having a bit of a delay thing going on. Technology is just, you know, it's a thing, isn't it? Sometimes. But we have Nana. He's joining us so that we take his opinion on it. But why don't you join us? We're live and interactive as well. If you go to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, tweet at us. It's JoyNews TV on Facebook, or JoyNews on Twitter, and on Facebook, JoyNews TV as well. Tell us what you think, how you feel about yesterday's game, how you feel about the Black Stars. I'd love to hear from the Arsenal fans. How do you feel about the Black Stars? Because you guys are loyal. So, you know, are you still loyal to the Black Stars as well? Or is it just Arsenal that gets that kind of love from you? But Oreko, whilst we're waiting for Nana Agyemang, I want to talk to you about the coach. Because on social media, again, there are people who are already calling, you know, for him to be sacked or calling for his resignation. I mean, the health minister hasn't resigned. So, like, I don't know about that. But what do you think? What do you think about the coach?
Well, after 10 games, if you have a win rate of 40%, this is what you should expect. And football is a game of results. At the end of the day, if you don't have your results to fall on, then Ghanaians should see a good performance. A performance that would give them hope that after what we've seen in 10 games, we should get better in the next 10 games because we can see that you're establishing a style of play. You can see that you're trying to work on something and you do have a core in the team. Unfortunately, that hasn't been the case for CK Akono. And
I remember when he was a player.
Yeah, he was a really good player. Yeah. But he's a good coach. In there, you can see a guy trying, but maybe the job came too early. Remember, he had just had previous experience with Ghanaian side, had a Kotoko where he won the Normalization Cup. Couldn't really progress in the CAF Champions League as well. But maybe it just came too early. You know, he just started coaching 2009 and all that. So it's a difficult one because
was my favorite. Just saying. Just saying.
You know, CK Akono actually replaced Kwesi Appiah, and interestingly, for all the insults rained on Kwesi Appiah, section of Ghanaians are now calling him back and saying that, Kwesi Appiah is better than CK Akono and all that. But I think there's a lot of emotion there, first off. And people need to understand that, circumstances are not the same. And when it comes to national team football, it's a combination of a whole lot of things. Now, you look at the most successful national teams currently, and it's one of two things. It's either the coach is super talented and is really dominant in the national team terrain, that he's able to accommodate the lack of talent and, active players in his squad. Unfortunately for Ghana, CK Akono isn't up there yet. And the overall squad quality is at its lowest in the past 20 years. And so you do have two
not
variables,
great factors, yeah,
who are all pretty low, but then expectations have stayed the same,
high, yeah,
and that have been at the top. And so for me, what I've been advocating is that we need clear communication. Is it a case that, we're going to accept that Ghana is transitioning and going through a difficult period, so we don't have to expect a trophy?
Too much. Like Bafana. I mean, like what they
Exactly.
said, right? Yeah.
You don't need to go out there preaching that the country is going to win the Africa Cup of Nations next year. It is not realistic.
I shock.
The FA, the technical team, everyone has to be on the same page and say that we're not going to this AFCON to win it. We are building a team and we expect it to win in the next 5-6 years, and this is the plan that we have. We expect to probably get into the knockout round. This is our team call. In the next 2-3 tournaments, we expect them to start challenging in the semi-finals. Present them with the plan. Make sure everyone is on the same page. But you stay in your room, you come for a meeting, you go to a press conference saying that we are going to beat South Africa, we'll win, we'll get 3 points, and then we're going to win the Africa Cup of Nations. You're just stirring the expectations of Ghanaians, when the reality is that if you look at the Ghana team right now, there isn't so much quality. You look at the players who played yesterday in the absence of the English Premier League players. Yao Yeboah, before yesterday, had only played 2 games for the Black Stars. Samuel Owusu has been in and out, and ever since he went to Saudi Arabia, he hasn't been the same. Andrea Ayew also moved from England to Saudi Arabia. You have Joel Famia playing in Russia, Kwame Opoku also playing in Algeria, and then Daniel Lomote playing in the 2nd division, Mubarak Waka also playing in China. Our guys are not at the top anymore. It's not like those times where you have Muntari, ACN, Appiah, Asamoah Gyan, Lai Kingston, all playing in the top 6-7
Even going further back to that Bedi Pele, Tony Yeboah, Samuel Kufo. I mean, that was the squad.
At that time, you don't need a super good coach because these guys were the thing.
That was the
squad. They could figure out things on the pitch themselves.
Those were the days when, I remember so clearly, growing up, you're watching the football match and your heart is about to, you are just about to die. Because there was so much and they were so good.
And they were extremely passionate and patriotic as well. Those were the times where you wouldn't hear anything about, bonuses or players.
The less said about that.
They were eager to play for the team. And it comes as no surprise that between 2008 and to 2017, Ghana made at least a semi-final in each of the Africa Cup of Nations. Different coaches, but it was never a problem because the core was active and good. But the reality is that we're just not there anymore. And maybe that's just what we have to accept.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. It sounds like your boyfriend has broken up with you. Just accept it. Okay, we have Kwame Dwomoh Agyemang. He's a sports journalist. He's joining us via Zoom. Hello, Kwame.
Hi, Nimwa.
Hi, good morning. Good to see you. Oh, there you are. Hello. Hi. Oh, so good to see you. Okay, so let's go straight into the conversation, Kwame. How do you feel about yesterday's match? Okay, so Kwame is on Zoom somewhere, but we can't find him. Okay, there. Oreko, this is your ancestors who are messing up my Zoom this morning. Kwame, okay, there you are. So how do you feel about yesterday's match?
Well, I mean, if you saw the game on Friday, you would have said that, okay, we didn't play that well, but we still got a result, which is the most important thing. But watching yesterday's game was painful.
Oh.
It was painful. The performance was poor. It didn't look like the players were up for it. I don't want to buy that that talk that quite a number of first choice team players were not available for the game, and maybe, just maybe, that is why the performance was like we saw yesterday. I'm sure CK knew that these players from England were not going to be available for the game against the South Africans, and I'm sure that since these players were invited, he had been preparing for this game against South Africa. So for me, that's not an excuse. You just get a feeling, just like Riku said, that maybe, just maybe, because all of us have been excited watching players of a certain standard, maybe plus or minus from 2000, so let's say 2014, and then all of a sudden we have to do with these materials. Maybe, just maybe, the quality of players that we also have are not good anymore. They are simply not okay. I mean, in the past, we had players who played at a very high level, played at top teams, played against very, very good players, and translated those performances onto the pitch anytime they were invited for the games. Anymore, I don't know how passionate you are about the sport, but look at the players we fielded yesterday. I'm sure there are some of them you don't even know.
Yeah, definitely.
That's the thing. I'm sure there are some of them you don't even know. So when you have these players all of a sudden donning the national team shirt and not putting in the performances that you want to see, like Uruku said again, you just get a feeling.
Horeku, your ancestors. Kwame is on the line with us, but Zoom is a little funny this morning, having a few internet issues. But he's talking again about, you know, the quality, the investment that the players are putting into the game. So it looks like, you know, that theme is kind of running across that. It's really just players not wanting to. Why though? Why would you, you know, wear the national jersey and know that, you know, 51 million people are counting on you for something to smile about, and you just won't put in the effort?
It's a combination of a lot of things, you know. When you're a footballer, there are days in your heart you want to give your best, but physically you're not there anymore, and that's why you need a technical team to be able to guide you, and they see things that you probably don't know and don't see. Now let's take Andre Ayew, case in point. Andre Ayew, the last time he played active football was 100 days ago when he played in that championship final. You know, the playoff final to the English Premier League. Swansea were beaten by Brentford in that game. Now, within those 100 days, he joined Al Sadd, and he's only played a couple of friendly games and only resumed pre-season, you know, a couple of weeks ago with his new team. So he wasn't conditioned.
On top form.
Yes. Andre Ayew wasn't conditioned at all.
But how are you having you're having these qualifiers, whatever thingy, and the national team is going to play, and you're bringing in players who are not, do the players not know that they were going to come and have these matches? Did they not themselves then say, okay, we're going to, you know, put in the training that is necessary, whatever, so that we can give off our best? Because ultimately, it's a showcase, isn't it? You are showing off your talent.
Yeah.
So how does that look for you even as a player?
Yeah, but that's the point that I was making. You know, players don't really factor in signs when they're making decisions. They roll on emotions a lot. In Andrea's mind, he still believes he's the leader of the team and has to show up and has to play. He can say that he has the heart. I can play, coach. Coach, I can do it. That's what they'll be telling the coach. But as a coach, you should separate the emotions and look at the signs and say, Andre hasn't been active. He's going to be facing, you know, players who've played at least 4 or 5 league games so far, have a whole 1 month of preseason behind them. So they are probably match fit. Now the question is, how would you manage Andre? We saw Andre play 90 minutes unnecessarily against Ethiopia in a game where Ethiopia didn't really pose any threats and Ghana go an early goal. So after you played him in
after the goal, you could have said, okay,
if you knew you were going to start him in South Africa,
then let him rest.
Take him off earlier and let him rest.
Instead, so like you said, the technical team is not maybe as on point either.
Yeah, I don't think they're doing their best.
You don't think anybody is on point, really?
Yeah, I think that's what, a lot has to be done. A lot has to be done. You know, from even the fans, the technical team, the Ghana Football Association, the players. This is a national crisis. It's not just isolated. It stretches beyond the Black Stars to even the Black Starless, the Black Satellites, the Black Meteors. Everyone is involved in this. And if you look at history, whenever our youth teams perform well, it translates straight into the national team performance. You remember after the 2010 Under-20 AFCON, where Andrea, you led the team in Egypt, 2009, to win the World Cup, the Africa Cup of Nations, and then eventually the World Cup with the Under-20 team. And just months later, we had Milovan Rajevac promoting a lot of those young players, taking them to Egypt, and they went to the final of the African Cup, where they narrowly lost by 1-0 against Egypt. And so that same team, you know, players were picked from that and sent to the 2010 World Cup as well, and we almost reached the semi-finals. So whenever we've had a good pull from the young players, we have seen that translated into the national team. Now the question is, how consistent have our youth teams been recently? We failed to qualify for the Olympics, we failed to qualify for the last Under-20 World Cup, and it looks as if attention has shifted from the younger teams, and every resource we have available is being pumped into the Black Stars, which doesn't make sense.
And then the Black Stars are not showing up for us.
Yeah, because you're just spreading yourself too thin, and you're putting all your eggs in one basket.
In one basket. Oh gosh, okay, well, Nana Agyemang is back on Zoom with us, football coach and sports pundit. Let's try this again. Good morning, Nana.
Good morning.
Okay, there you are. Sounds good. So I hope that you were listening to us. Oreku has, shared his opinion. He is not happy with the Black Stars. Lots of people aren't. But how do you feel about yesterday's match before we get into all the technicalities?
Well, good morning to you, and good morning to the young man in your studio. I like his vim. I like his style. It's very objective. Well, the match, as we saw, was a complete disaster. There was, I don't know if there was a formation or if they had a game pattern or anything. What I saw was a lot of kicking and running. In our local parlance, giddy giddy, butu butu. I didn't see anything much. And of course, that translated in the goal that was scored. We should have lost that by 2-0 because they scored a goal earlier and it was disallowed for offside, but it wasn't offside. And they had numerous opportunities on our goal, which we weren't really able to defend, and they messed it up themselves. I mean, just look at 2 yards out from the goal line and you kick it wide of the post and you end up in the back of the net. Such is the inexperience of the new boys that are being groomed in South Africa. That really, to be honest with you, mellowed down the embarrassment, because 1-0 isn't that bad, but it could have been 2, it could have been 3 against kids on the block, basically. I don't buy into the fact that we say we had key players missing, as we don't have any key players. There are no players before. We've passed that era. There were key players before in the likes of Sully, even Jan, SCN, and the likes, like Kingston. We had a midfield quartet, to be honest, back in the day, that was in the top 5 best in the world back in those days. We don't have any of that now. And, what I see is that with the advent of social media, because let me talk about us first, the people who talk to the public about our team. There are too many journalists who have access to social media who talk a lot of rubbish about our team. And when I say rubbish, they talk up the team and say the team is good, the players are good, this and that, blah, blah, blah. I wonder, what's going on. And they deceive the general public. They deceive them into believing that we have a chance. And even politically, it has its implications because, look, $25 million has been earmarked for this Black Star team. They've been given a target, and CK has been given a target. Should win the African Cup of Nations, and they should appear in the semi-finals of the World Cup. Which drunk person said that? Because how are they going to end up in the semi-finals of the World Cup? Look how they play. What World Cup? Is it the under-17s World Cup we're talking about? Because it can't be the senior males team. How are we going to end up in the semi-finals of the World Cup? And indeed, how are we going to win the African Cup of Nations? How are we going to do that? You look at this team. We don't do team building. I don't know. The young man in the studio was talking about, our junior teams, and they don't progress. once we have an under 20 or an under 23, I mean, well, the under 23s are invisible. But once we have an under 20 that plays and they don't win anything, we disband them. We do that all the time. And so we end up with journalists saying, let's bring back Jan, let's bring back Sully, let's bring back this man and that man, because we don't have any options. We don't have any options. Now, I always talk about a selection criteria because on what basis have we selected these players? On what basis? I don't know what basis we select these players. I've heard the young man talk about the fact that Andre hadn't played for 100 days. I didn't even know that. But on what basis do you select him? Because he's the captain, even though he's not playing, so you select him, knowing that he doesn't have any match fitness. And this is a big problem. We don't have a comprehensive selection criteria. We haven't had it for years. And for me, I think that we're wasting a lot of money on this Black Stars. We're wasting too much money. And every other sport suffers. You look at what happened in the Olympics. How many people did we send to the Olympics? How many people even had adequate training facilities before the Olympics? We don't put money into the Olympics. We don't put any money into the Olympics at all. Nothing at all. We don't put money into basketball, into tennis, into any of what we call the lesser known sports. We pump all the money into football. And I tell you, it's a political fallacy, because the politicians believe that if they pump the money into the senior national team and they should win the African Cup of Nations, that may somehow have an impact on the government of the day being re-elected. Poppycock. And as far as I'm concerned, if I'll be totally honest with you, I see the, these huge sums going into the Black Stars as a way for people to pilfer money. That's what I see. I don't see it any other way. I see it's a means of stacking up some cash that those who are, up there can just be pilfering small, and we still won't get the results. But look, the one thing I don't agree is that we're in a crisis. It's been 40 years. What crisis? I don't know how old the young man is, but he's never seen a triumphant Black Stars yet with a trophy in their hand. And people under the age of 40 have never, ever witnessed that. And it doesn't look like they're going to witness that this time round either. It's been 40 years. It's not a crisis of today. It's a crisis that has been with us for 40 years. And I don't see that there's anything much that we can do about it, because the fundamentals are not right. It's not right. And we don't have any idea. We should be grooming players to fill the boots of Asamoah Gyan. It's not impossible. We should be grooming players to fill the boots of Essien, of Muntari, of Painstill, of players like that when we lined up a Black Stars team back in those days, and we all sat around our TV sets or we were in the stadium, we know what was going to happen. And when we lost, but we played gallantly. We lost because we lost to the better team. Now we lose just because we lost. We're no good. I mean, where do we go from here? I don't know. I'm not going to be one screaming for CK to be sacked. But what I would say is that the GFA know what they have to do. They know what they have to do, because if the GFA really wants to win this AFCON, then there's got to be some changes. But terrible yesterday. Terrible.
Now for that, absolutely killing the fire, and whatever hope was left, whatever joy was left, you've done a great job, a great reality check. Let's talk to Kwame, who's joining us back on the phone lines, on Zoom, sorry. Kwame Dwomoh as well. Kwame, you've had Oreku, you've had Nana. Are you going to kill us too, or are you going to give us some hope?
Well, I am not overly pessimistic. I still look at this team and I say, okay, we're building a national team, like Nana said, like Oreku said. It's not like all our players all over the world, or all of our players, maybe locally, or players who play outside are that rubbish. Let me put it that way. I believe that every national team has a way of turning things around. I've seen this national team, not this particular group of players, but I've seen the Black Stars plus or minus 30 years of my life. And I've seen players come through at one point or the other. I'll probably have to go all the way back to, let's say, 1991, when I watched the Black Stars beat Spain in the final of the U17. And then quite a number of the players graduated from that team and were the core of the Black Stars for plus or minus 10 years. Then I saw another generation of players in 2001. It started from 1999 at the U17 World Cup in New Zealand, where quite a number of these players graduated to the U20 in 2001 in Argentina. And quite a number of them then made it to the Black Stars and were mainstays in the team for plus or minus another 10, 12, 13 years. But you look at the team at the moment, I don't recall the last time we made an impression at the U17 or the U20. So it's a situation of players probably not developing as we would want, and getting them to be mainstays of the national team for maybe plus or minus another 10, 15 years. And then there's the issue of player call-ups. I have been baffled sometimes at some of the players that have been called up for our games. I wouldn't want to zone in on certain players, but we've seen them. We've watched them the last 2-3 years. We've seen players called up for a game or two. They don't even get to play. We don't even see them. They don't get a minute. And they are never called again. And I keep asking myself, so on what basis were they called the previous time? Because they didn't play. We didn't even see them in action. And they are never called up. I could run through a long list of players who have been called up the last 2, 3, 4 years, never got a game. We never saw them, and that was the end. New set of players are called up. We don't see them in action. They don't even get a minute, and they are not called up again. And I'm asking myself, what kind of team building is this? Then the worst part that I heard, incidentally, was on your platform. I heard the president of the Football Association say that the days where the coach would decide on which players are going to be called up for the national team is long gone. What incidentally he meant was that quite a number of people are now going to be deciding who gets called up in the national team. So what? A coach's decision can be overruled? Is that what he was trying to say? Or it was just a case of, okay, you say you want this, I say I want that. And then a number of people have to decide. You are going to be using the players, for heaven's sake. You have to call up the players who you think can get the job done for you. If you call up rubbish players, they'll give you rubbish performances. And we've seen rubbish players being called and given as rubbish performances. Look at the players who played yesterday. Quite a number of players. And I saw this. Oroku puts a lot of stats. He does that so well. I had seen one of his comments somewhere in the week or somewhere last week that Andre had not played up to about 90 days or something. So maybe yesterday was 100, like he said a couple of minutes on the show. He's not played for 100 days. The match fitness was not there. And clearly, you could see that he was struggling. And the worst part was that he was playing as, if you like, the lead striker. You're expecting Andre Didayu to be covering a lot of grass when he's not played for 100 days and his knees are gone. And then you look at the players who were called up. I'm not saying that there are some other better players who were not given the opportunity yesterday, but you saw the performances. It was painfully poor. I don't know what we're going to do to turn this around. And that talk of having this, I don't know whether to call them crazy ambitions. How do you look at this team and you say they should go and win the Cup of Nations? How? What kind of dinner did you have before passing that kind of statement? And this team to play in the semi-final of the World Cup, maybe you need to get some good Milo or some good Nescafe. How this team is going to be playing in the semi-final of the World Cup, even when the so-called key players, who are the key? Do we remember any time Jordan Ayew scored a national team goal or a club goal? The whole of last season, he scored, I think, 1 goal for his club. He scored, I think, 2 goals for the national team. The previous year, he scored 9 goals for his club. I think another 3 goals for the national team. And he's supposed to be a lead striker. Where are the goals going to be coming from? Where are the supplies going to be coming from? Then Agyemang spoke about the fact that we had a crazily good quartet of midfielders. So you mentioned Essien, you mentioned Sule, you mentioned Stephen Appiah. You add Likens to that. Do you see any of these players being up to 10% the midfield that we have to supply the kind of services to a player like Jan, who is not available? So we go with Didier or whoever is Andre or Didier or whoever is selected to bang in the goals. Where are they going to come from? Where?
Wow, okay. Kwame, well, it sounds like we're trying to squeeze crude oil out of palm kernels. So I don't really know. Again, sounds very abysmal and not very hopeful. But I have George Addo Jr. Joining us as well. Hey, George.
How are you doing anymore? How's
You're
everything
right.
going?
You're right. You're right.
Yes, I'm all right. I'm good. I'm good.
So good to see you. So you are calling for the sacking of CK Akono, aren't you?
Yeah, because we have to try and solve some of the issues of where we start from. Kwame, I just heard Kwame talking about, selection issues. The Ghana Football Association president did say that they have a committee or whatever who are now selecting players, and that from that day when he had the interview with us at Joy Sports, I mean, it wasn't going to happen that the coach would just decide which players will play and that he had to go through a certain committee. My point is this. I think that they have a coach who is allowing them to do some of these things. If you have a top coach, he would never allow you to tell him which players to use. And it's as clear as that. It's simple. You look at the body language of the players, I think that they are, even though they are not star players, even though they are not so great, they are playing below average because there is no plan. And I love it when the coach was talking about, oh, we have to do this because once you get the 3 points, it's okay. We didn't get the 3 points. We didn't get the 3 points. He's not been winning big games, and it's a problem. If we want to qualify for the World Cup, now is the time to sack Coach CK and bring in a coach who knows his way. Now remember that Hugo Broos, the coach of South Africa, we were told that CK Akono beat Hugo Broos in an interview at the Ghana Football Association in the build-up to looking for a coach for the Black Stars. How that happened, I don't know. Hugo Broos took South Africa and already he's put them in some shape and they're playing some football. It is very, very difficult to say that you want to do Ghana beyond age with our Black Stars because there are so many issues. No, yeah, I'm saying this here because CK Akono is there because of Ghana beyond age.
George. I love that. I
No.
love that.
I'm very serious.
I can
Because
see
CK
that.
Akono is there because CK Akono is there because the government has indicated that they don't want a foreign coach. They want to it. And our government has already gone for aid. So then let's go for soccer aid now. And if we want to be at the level, because I get all that coach is saying, I get all that Kwame Dwomoh is saying, I get what Oreku is saying, but as we speak, if we want to qualify for the World Cup, we need somebody who knows his ins and outs. We need someone who can fight the system. We need someone who can stamp his ground like Milovan Rajvac. We need somebody who knows what he's doing or else we're in trouble. Because we have 4 more games to go. We have the Africa Cup of Nations. And then remember, this qualification does not end with topping the group. You top the group and then you go to the playoff where 10 top winners, because there are 10 groups of 4, and all those who top the group will play in the final leg, which is the playoffs, 2 legs. So if we want to qualify for the World Cup, that is clear what we need to do. Because at the moment, there's just no plan. If you look at the call-ups by CK Akono, he's confused. Do you know that in the last, this call-ups, this particular call-ups, players who were called up, let me put it, players who were not called up in the main lineup ended up being in the lineup when they started. So I was just saying, so then what was the plan of the coach? Those who were called later ended up in the team and everything was messed up from beginning to end. We have to speak the truth, and it's clear that perhaps the job for CK Akono came too early. The team is not playing the way they are supposed to play. He says we should judge him by the results. The results are not good, 40%, with all the kinds of games he has had. I think we have to go straight to the point and do what we must do. Now, these are the 2 reasons why I think that, look, CK must go, aside all I've said. Number 1, I think that those who employed CK Akono don't believe that he is the right man to do the job. And that's why you see that when you have a coach and now you say, I'm bringing a technical director, I'm bringing an assistant coach, I'm bringing in this, they are trying to help him because they don't believe in him. And there are so many things that have happened to CK Akono that tell you that those who have employed him don't actually believe in him. And it's because there is a rule from the government that you cannot use a foreign coach. That is the only thing that is keeping him there. We have gone down the line. We have seen what's happening here. If we really want to qualify for the World Cup, it's as simple as that. I know your time is almost up. We have put this together in a 40-minute discussion with Gary and Atapoku and Jerome Motri. And I think later on you get to see it. But we tried as much as possible to give the coach the benefit of the doubt. We even said, if the players have been called up for you and you are on the pitch, it is up to you to do the substitutions. It's up to you to organize the team. And we haven't seen that happening. We haven't seen that happening. Even to start with, let's remember that the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations were knocked out in the round of 16. So far as I'm concerned, we are not part of the first 12. Forget about the ranking. We are not part of the first 12. And this Black Stars team has not got magical players. We don't have players who can just create magic. So if this team can play, if this Black Stars team can play as a team collectively, then we are going nowhere. And it was clear yesterday. Because if you look at our players, I understand people say, oh, the call-ups have been blah, blah, blah. But if you look at our players, man for man, I don't think we were too far away from the South Africans. The difference was the tactical. It was clearly tactical. You go through the game, how the goals were scored. And look, yesterday's game wasn't 1-0. It was 2-0. Because that goal that was disallowed, I don't know how it got disallowed. It was a clean goal. And the South Africans outplayed us. The Ethiopians outplayed us. And we said, because we had 3 points, it was okay. And there are more teams who are players. These are locally assembled players. So it's sometimes not about the players that you have. But if you have a coach who knows where he's going, it's easy. So, can you remember when Milovan was in charge, that the local, when we went for the Chan, the team that played in the Chan, the team that played at the Under-20 World Cup in 2009, the team that played at the AFCON in 2010, the team that played at the World Cup in 2010, were all playing a brand of football that was easy to make sense with. We could see it. So it was easy to do the substitutions. It was easy to say, oh, Suleiman Mutari can play. Are you coming? There was a plan then. There's no plan now.
Okay.
There's no plan now.
Well,
so
George.
There's just no point.
Okay, George. I think that you've joined your voice to Kwame's and Nana's and completely killed our hope. And Doreku as well, completely killed our hope. So I think we can finish this discussion now, and conclude that we're not going to put our hearts on the table for this tournament. All right. So Orex, what was that about?
So we can play the video without sound. Let me try and explain a bit of things. So that's the first phase. If you could start it again, and let's just go back. The first phase is very important. So before the goal, you can see that it's 7 Ghana defenders versus 4 South African attackers. No way should you concede a goal here. No way. Absolutely no way. Ghana was not outnumbered. If there was proper communication and responsibility and everyone knew who they was taking, no goal comes from here. Now, Gideon Mensah, who was the left back, had gone forward. So let's go to the next phase, where keep an eye on Wakaso and Samuel Usu, who dropped into the left half space to assume Gideon Mensah's role. Now, both of them are highlighted there. There are 2 South African men on the wing. None of them are marking. They're actually marking each other. And the ball would fall to one of these South African players. And watch Wakaso. Wakaso is the one at the top. Just watch Wakaso when the video resumes. So Wakaso is not in the frame, and that's because he's walking. And his man gets the ball. So now Jonathan Mensah has to leave his centre-back position, and that's the most dangerous part in football. You must always guard the centre because 90% of crosses come there. So Jonathan Mensah leaves, but when Jonathan is leaving, Lomote should see that Jonathan Mensah is going, so I have to cover for him. Lomote and then Baba Idrisu at the edge are all watching the ball, failing to look at the man who they would most likely cross to.
Okay.
So they were not communicating, because if Jonathan is leaving, he should tell Lomote, or Lomote should see it. And then Fatau is the last man who can save the situation. If only he sees it early and gets ahead of the man, because the cross is coming from the front of you. So being behind the man means that the striker would get to the ball before you. Unfortunately, he fell asleep for just a split second. And that's all you need sometimes to score goals. And even from this, you can still see the Ghana defenders. They are marking spaces and not men.
And in went, like Shatawale says, enter the net.
Yeah, very disappointing goal to concede, especially when I thought the team had defended well against Ethiopia. And for some parts of the game against South Africa, the defense were some of the positives that you could pick out from what was an uninspiring performance. I thought Gideon Mensah was good.
Hold that thought for me. Some of the positives. Yeah. This is the first positivity thingy that we're doing. Let me just open the phone lines and I'll come back to you. So 0302-211-691 or 0302-211-692, 0302-211-691 or 0302-611. Let me take it again. 0302-211-692. Okay, the phone line's on your screen. Probably gets it better from there than from me. Call me. I want to know what you think about yesterday's match. What you think about what George and Kwame and Nana and Oreku have said. Most importantly, are you breaking up with the Black Stars? Or are you going to endure this relationship? I'd love to hear from you. Okay, Orex, you were telling me something positive, but it looks like it wasn't meant to be because Kweku is calling us from Shaimon Nation. Kweku? Hello?
Hello.
Kweku?
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning. Charlie, what's up? We lost Kweku. His ancestors interrupted the phone call. Okay, so the positives, Kweku. The phone lines are open, by the way. The numbers are on screen. We have Michael. Michael.
Hello.
Michael calling us from Old Barrier. Michael, what's up? What did you think of the match?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yesterday I wasn't able to watch the football match because of what happened in Ethiopia. And a friend of mine asked me, did I speak for Ghana? And I was like, oh, no. See, this Ghanaian team is, some way because I think there are some certain things you need to put in place because the whole thing is very, very upset. The performance and everything. People are starting to lose hope in the national team, and I think the government should, include itself into this and start building the team from the scratch.
Okay, let me move to Frederick now. Frederick calling us from Oda. Good morning, Frederick. Frederico. Okay, so our phone lines are acting like the national team this morning. So let me take your final comments. Okay, actually, let me hear about your positives, and then I'll go to the rest of the squad and take their final comments.
Yeah, so I was saying that the defense has been one thing that at least stood out in what was a bit of an uninspiring couple of performances. And we saw Alexander Jiku really impose himself at the centre-back position. Gideon Mensah showed a bit of potential. His final product could have been better, but he probably was more enterprising than Babaraman. And also, Daniel Amate was solid as usual. Jonathan Mensah, I thought was good, but maybe could have communicated better for that goal. And so the only positive from these two games that we've seen is that we do have the personnel for to lay the foundation for a good defense. And so wherever, going forward, whether it's a new coach coming in or CK coming in, we have guys that we can rely on defensively. Maybe Richard Ofori, I thought, has been shaky, but that's because he's not been consistent and he's had a couple of injuries and all that. So it's time that we train another keeper, whether it's Lawrence Atisigi or whoever is stepping in.
Oh, I miss Olele.
Yeah, Olele is actually training them now, so hopefully he's able to pass some of his
good stuff. Let me just do two more phone calls. So I have Sharif calling us from Osu. Sharif, what's up?
Cool, babe.
Okay.
You know what? Let's speak the truth. Tiki Akuno is not a coach. If, let's say, we want local coach, if we say we want local coach, let's give the job to the coaches that we know that these people are coaches. They have been coaching for so many, they've coached some youth to some level. If CV didn't used to give CK the job, if you talk about CK coaching office, he was sacked. If you talk about CK coaching Kotoko, he was sacked. If you talk about CK coaching House of Hope, he was sacked. So this man didn't qualify to handle Blaster. That's a long way to go. Let's go in for coaches that we do. Any coach at all who has handled, teams in Ghana, we can get them. They can do it. But if we think, this man has got certificate A from somewhere, so let's give him the job. He has never coached any team to succeed. And then you give the if somebody have a car, you need a driver. You call the driver, come and drive a car. What is your license? He said, my license has been seized by the police. Why? He said, I had an accident. Will you give that?
Okay, good points there, Sheriff. Obed calling us from Dome. Obed, what are your thoughts? Obed.
Yes, I mean.
Yes, I can hear you. What are your thoughts?
I'm talking what they call the creating chances. Because if you want to create chances, if you want to score goal, you have to create. There's no chance. I can even count the chances Ghana did yesterday. Don't get it. Why? They expect us to put our hearts inside this football. There's no performance. You didn't play even anything. It's even KG2 can't produce this. Try it's even playing me already. Only this team to World Cup or African Cup. Expect to bring cup inside. And we should even break this team down and just break another team because we can't see any player. There's no player. They are just under 16, under 16 playing football.
Okay, Obed. Well, thank you for that. Thank you to all of you who called, and especially to those of you who tried but couldn't get through. Thanks a lot. Let me take my final comments from Kwame, Nana, and George, all three of them on Zoom. Maybe let me start with Nana. Nana, what are your final comments before we end the conversation?
Well, there's a lot to think about. There's food for thought there, isn't it? I mean, you can't keep doing the same thing but expecting different results. It just doesn't work. And we're caught in that trap, unfortunately. And we're doing the same thing and we're expecting to get better and brighter results that are just not going to happen. I'm saddened because government seems to be dictating what happens in terms of the coach. And for me, I'm all down with a local coach. I've got no problem with that, so far as the competency levels are one that can take us somewhere. But I'm disappointed that, in terms of our economy, we're struggling, but we'll throw 25 million at the Black Stars. We'll leave out all the other sporting activities. We'll disregard them, and we'll pump money into the Black Stars, give them unrealistic targets, and then expect them to achieve. GFA has got its work to be done. Our next game is in October. They better sit up. They better sit up, because I know in the beginning of Kurt Okraku's election, they were talking about bringing back the love. Well, I don't think it's an issue about love. I think we need some goals, because the love isn't going to do anything for us. We've got to bring back the goals, bring back some technical stability. We have a new technical director, just as George said. He's right. They don't have any confidence in the coach. So they brought a new assistant who's an expatriate. They brought a technical director as well to help CK. It's clearly not working, is it? And if we want to get beyond this 40 years, just with the AFCON, forget the World Cup, because we're not on that yet. Just in the AFCON, then we've got a lot of things to do. And those things that we've got to do have got to start from today. We've seen what happened yesterday. GFA have got to sit up and take some action right now.
Okay, thank you for that, Nana. Kwame, what are your final thoughts?
Well, I think that we should be, first of all, consistent with our call-ups. Our call-ups have been put, in my opinion, quite a number of players who are simply not there getting call-ups to be a part of this team. We can sort that out. And then we need some consistency in the technical direction, like Nana said. I'm not advocating for the sacking of CK, but if he's going to be there, he's clearly got to up his game, take it to another level, a completely new level, because at this rate, on this form, I'm not too sure he's probably going to be around to take the next few games that the Black Stars are going to be playing. He's got to up his game. He's got to ensure that the right players are called up. There has to be a plan. I've watched the 2 games. I didn't see any plan. I didn't see what we wanted to do. He's got to look at that. And hopefully, I do not think that Zimbabwe or Brazil, Zimbabwe and not Argentina either, I've seen them for years, and I saw their game against South Africa. I do not think that we need players of a certain quality to beat them. I think we can beat them with the materials that we had, but he's just got to ensure that he does the right thing with the call-ups and get the best out of these players to ensure we get a result over them.
All right. Okay, George, your thoughts?
Well, there's a quick reminder for Kwame Dwomoh there about Zimbabwe. They have enjoyed disturbing the Black Stars over the years, and if you give them the opportunity, they will. They have good players. They've got players playing Aston Villa Co. They've got players who are playing, so we have to be careful. Now, this is my thing. Oriku talked about how the goal was conceded. That's even fine. Goals are conceded. There could be problems. But how about the passing in the midfield? This team is nowhere. This team is actually playing nowhere close to a team that is serious. I mean, that is where we have to take it from. Now, I think that Ghana Football Association must go ahead and sack Coach CK and get a coach. And yeah, I think so. I'm not going to mention, because it is in the interest, it's in the best interest of Coach CK that he's sacked at this point. Because look at the things surrounding him now. He's not been paid for how many months? 7, 8 months. There's a technical director. There's supposed to be a technical team that is going to go through his call-ups. Apparently, he cannot just wake up and call up a player. He has to go and defend it. And that team that he has to defend to is not
too much,
even technical enough, because I know that there are Ghana Football Association Executive Council members in that team that is looking at the players that he has brought. It's enough to say, go. The next point is that he hasn't demonstrated over the games that he has played that there is a clear plan for the Black Stars. There is no clear plan for the Black Stars. And I don't think that in October anything is going to change. So if we want to change, let's go. South Africa went down the line of also, employing coaches. Nana made a point. It is not about a local coach, a Ghana coach, or a foreign coach. It is about understanding that the Black Stars is at the level. And whoever handles the Black Stars must be at the level. If there's Thomas Partey in your Black Stars team, it means that he's exposed to training methods, he's exposed to top stuff. If he comes to the Black Stars and what he's seeing there is, a downgrade, clearly you see the players' body, the posture. They are not really interested. And it feels to me, because yesterday I saw Siki Akono screaming. He was screaming the whole game, because clearly, somehow, in it, maybe, when we interview him, he will tell us the players are not quite listening to him or doing what he has to do. We saw it at the Africa Cup of Nations 2019, when Wesia was saying this, and the players on the pitch were deciding what to do, because they think that, let's do that. So I think that, look, CK must go. It's as simple as that. CK must go. It will save everybody. Get in a man who can come and face the system. A man who you can't come and sit on radio and say that, I've got a squad, I've got a team that will go through your... You can't say that. I remember Milvan Rayabat saying that Sule Muntari walked out of the Black Star squad. They had to beg him, and he told them that Sule Muntari will have to do what he says or he won't play. That's the kind of coach you need for this system. And unfortunately, Coach Nana, that is why I don't favor a lot of our coaches, because when it looks like they have been done a favor, they are just hiding, and they are being dictated to. You can see from the call-ups, it's not really coming from the man. He's frustrated. I remember when Eugene Ansah was called, he said in the press conference that I called Eugene Ansah, Then days after, he spoke to a former Black Stars player who came and said he did not even know Eugene Ansah, so how did Eugene Ansah come in? So there are so many things that we are seeing out there that are not even born of the coach. Therefore, let's get a coach who can come in and face the system. Because if you can't face this system, there's no way you can have your free hand in doing what you're supposed to do. And it's clear that we don't have a plan. What is the technical director doing at the moment? Because we can't see it. We have to go back and solve these problems quickly. We have time to still qualify for the World Cup.
Okay.
But if we miss it in the next window, we're in trouble.
Okay. Well, George told us there's a 40-minute feature, as it were, on all of this. So we'll be bringing that to you very soon, and then we can have that analysis. But it doesn't really look good. I'd like to say a big thank you, George Addo Jr., Kwame Dwomoh, Nana Agyemang, and of course Oreku with the eyelashes, who has been here with me, keeping me company. Thank you so much, Oreku, for popping by, and thank you to you guys as well for joining us via Zoom. Okay, so now we're moving on to joy in my community. And this morning, we're bringing you the story of Nsawam and the challenges that are facing the residents. Now, it's one of Ghana's largest cities, known among others for its traditional delicacy, turkey wings, popularly called chofi. Manuel Kranting spent some time with the members of the community who have been speaking about their issues and brings us this report.